From the top rope, this is the Squared Circus.
Square! Ah! That's the occult phenomenon. You know what I think?
Recording in progress.
I realize I like paint.
That was a botch. Hold on.
So, anyway, that's how it's gonna go.
How many people?
Too many damn people. That is the main topic in this one, because we started talking before that there is way too much roster going on in AEW, and I know a lot of people have been complaining about that, but I think that when he bought Ring of Honor, he did a little too much, and he needs that Ring of Honor show because there is just way too many motherfuckers.
Yeah.
You should not be seeing all these people in Dark that we would want to see on TV. We should not be seeing, there
should be room for Eddie Kingston and Claudio Castagnoli on TV.
100%.
And I guess Claudio's on this Wednesday, you were pointing out recently. Also, slight side note. Can the world learn to say Castagnoli? How hard is it?
It's why I don't say his last name.
Don't say the G. It's not Castagnoli. Castagnoli.
I call them Claudio Cannoli.
That's fine. I actually like that. Claudio Cannoli of the Black Bean Onion Dip Club.
Yes. So yes, we did see him on. I saw an ad from this Wednesday, and that makes no sense. But my whole point of when we started ranting is that because they have so fucking many people, I think a lot of them, they have no idea what to do with them. There's no storylines in these people. Then you throw in, I love Blackpool. I really do. I know we say a lot of funny names about them, but I love that faction because I like the fact that they all have their individuality. Totally fucked that word up.
Individuality.
Yeah, a little drunk.
Me too.
So I sat there and I really like them because they all have their own shit, but they still do the same moves, and they also come together and this and that or whatever. So
yeah, a lot of thought and creativity goes into it.
Yes. And so I do realize that they're kind of like teasing, because I also did say that I feel like Regal is going to turn, not because Jim Cornette said it, because I had no idea, but just because I just thought that was going to be. So I'm hoping they don't break them up, though. I know there was a tease with Garcia and Brian. I know there's a little rant, but when they're just mixing two of them and saying, okay, you're going to go on Dark. Okay, you're going to go in this match. There's no storylines now. At least Garcia and Brian has one. Go ahead.
I also want to put it in there on a little aside, what you were saying, how you thought Regal is going to turn, and are they teasing a breakup? I think they're keeping it together. I think they're going to do the whole thing. It's like, yeah, Regal will interfere, and maybe Yuta and Brian will have their differences, and something with Garcia, who the fuck knows, whatever. But I think it's all going to be like, this is the Blackpool Combat Club. You got to be tough. Them's the breaks. This is how we do it. This is all about fighting. So I think that's how it's going to go. Anyway, continue, my good sir.
So, but after I saw the Dark episode today, and I was like, okay, why is all these people? That's what made us think about the Ring of Honor. That's what made us think that he needs to have. If you're going to have this big roster, there's little ways that you could put into storylines. Like, for instance, like if you do have the Blackpool, you also had the Jericho Association. I know people love factions because it's an easier way to get people airtime. So even if they don't, Hager, whatever the fuck his name is, from Jericho, he doesn't do shit. He just comes out, kicks someone once in a blue moon, and then just sits there and says, "I like his hat." Like, so
let's put this out there too. Like, this is my favorite version of Hager so far.
Yes.
Almost 3 years of Jake Hager. But when they signed him, I was like, oh, really? Are you really just going to sign everybody who used to be in WWE? This is the guy you needed. And for 3 years or however long it's been, I did not give a shit about this guy until he started doing the bit about the hat. And now I love it.
I think it's because Jericho is teaching shit, because it's a total Jericho type of thing that I feel like he's doing. But
give him because he has a personality now.
Yeah. So, but like anyway, so back to the thing is the only way that we would think of with too many people is obviously the Ring of Honor. They have to do that. I did mention they're going to have a show where they're going to have where they talk about each individual lives. and they'll actually talk more about them personally. So I'm curious to see how that goes, because even though that's not matches, it still gives them airtime. So you could do certain things, like, so for instance, we always talk about Eddie Kingston not being on a match.
Wait,
If
what?
they do something with him, then at least he's getting fucking TV time and people will watch it. You know,
Who are we talking about? Kofi
Eddie?
Kingston?
Yeah, Kofi Kingston. The
And Eddie Kingston's his brother.
So I think that would work with that. So I don't know. What do you have any other suggestions besides the Ring of Honor, besides firing fucking half the roster?
So it's a weird situation. People have been talking about this for years. Every podcast you listen to, every article you read, or not every article, but every site that publishes articles had something about, is AEW getting too bloated in the roster? Are they signing too many people? They've been talking about this for at least a year. And now it's really starting to come to fruition. The problems of having too many people, of signing everybody that's available. Now, I understand you want to sign talent when they're available. You don't want to miss the opportunity, because that's a problem. If you have a great idea for somebody and you want to take advantage of their talent, you should try to do so, but you can't sign everybody. So what do? I don't know. I don't have the answer. And I understand where Tony's coming from when he's signing these people and hoping that he has something for them later. But of course, all the problems have come about that we were worried about, that the fans are going to worry that their favorite guy isn't getting enough TV time because there's not enough room for them on TV with everybody else. The wrestlers themselves are going to get disgruntled because there's not enough time for them. And I think we've seen this with Malachi Black and Andrade El Idolo and people like that. And Malachi, I know that they're both really talented guys.
Yeah.
But I don't know what to do with them. Malachi Black felt like he was on his way to being like a main event championship contender when he was in his feud with Cody, and then nothing happened.
Nothing. Yeah.
These matches are just so good, and he's just such a compelling wrestler. I think in that case, though, I think they buried themselves a little doing the black thing, whatever, House of Black.
Yeah.
Because it was just corny, and it wasn't for everybody. Malachi Black, just that's him and that's his character, worked, and his matches were good, and okay, he's a creepy guy. When you try to put other people into his like persona, it feels forced, it feels corny, and it doesn't work as well. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't main event level stuff, and it watered down the whole thing. Anyway,
some things that they do right, though, I feel like if you want to do like more airtime, is because some promos that keep on leading to stories are done right in my eyes. Like, for instance, Jade's not fighting every time, and nor is Nyla. But the fact that they still have their little skits now, like a few, that works. So it still gets some airtime. Yeah. So you don't have to have all these matches. No. But I think that, so if you're going to have, if people need to have a match and they're on a match, they don't need a long ass promo then with the match. Have that, cut it down where, does that make sense? Like where, like,
yes,
if you already have a promo, let's say 1 week, then the next week is the match. You don't need a promo and then a match the same night. You could use that spot for someone else.
Yeah, I mean, MJF is a good example. He does a ton of promos, very few matches. He never feels irrelevant. I mean, apart from the period of time when he was off air and nobody knew what was going on, but like, he's a guy who does way more promos than matches, and he always feels relevant when he's doing it. You could have, I mean, yes, he did like a 3,000 hour promo the other night. So, and it was awesome. Not everybody needs to do that. Not everybody's capable of doing that. Ooh, I'm slurring a little bit. The whiskey's kicking in. But like, you can have Eddie Kingston come on and do 30 seconds every week.
Yeah.
And it'll make him feel relevant, and he'll destroy. He'll just totally kill it in 30 seconds. A lot of people can just get these short promos, these little bits to keep them on TV and make them feel relevant.
You said a good point. One of the other podcasts when you was that you liked the fact how with Rampage being irrelevant, relevant, sorry, is that like if they do like a promo on Dynamite and then the match is on Rampage, so it kind of like people want to see.
Yeah.
I think they should do that. They should do that more often. All like the little promos that they have on Dynamite, it should be the matches that's on Rampage, so that actually will get people to watch more.
Yeah.
And they don't do that enough.
And you're referring to the Acclaimed match that was on Rampage recently, right?
Correct.
On Dynamite, they did the whole shtick with smart Mark Sterling, where he's like, I'm buying the rights, or what did he do? I don't know. Some lawyer bullshit. He copyrighted the rights to scissoring on wrestling. That was on Wednesday. Friday, they had a match to win back the rights to use scissoring in a wrestling context. It made sense. It wasn't everybody's favorite storyline, but it worked, and it was like, you know, it made Rampage something you want to tune into to see what the result is of the story they started on Wednesday.
And mainly my point on that, when you said that, is that because there are plenty of times that Dynamite, they'll have promo and then a match, or they come out and do more promos.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like sometimes they save them. You know, I understand like when Dynamite, Hangman got hurt, unfortunately. So therefore, you know, Mox kind of saved him a little bit with added on a little bit more and, you know, whatever. But so I understand that things make sense sometimes, but when you see it multiple people, like when you see some people multiple times in the same episode, you're like, you only have 3 hours altogether from Rampage and Dynamite. This really shouldn't be, you know what I'm saying? So that was the main issue that when they had with Punk, and Punk, he came out for everything, and they don't need that. I understand that they say, okay, the crowd favorites are certain people here and there. But this is too much. I shouldn't see people on Dark when I'm seeing people have multiple skits and matches constantly. There's ways to make people feel still be heard and not take up all the time, I believe.
Right. And the whole idea of being on Dark when you're a TV guy who's like a regular talent that's showing up on TV, and all of a sudden you show up on Dark, there's a little bit of a stigma to being on Dark because it's mostly enhancement talent and developmental talent. So all of a sudden you have this, Claudio is a good example, who had this big fanfare to his AEW debut. They gave him a belt. They put him in the Blackpool Combat Club. And then they run out of ideas for him and they start putting him on Dark. It feels like a demotion, whether it is or not.
Yes.
And I don't think it necessarily has to be, but there's a stigma that goes along with being on Dark that makes it look like they've run out of ideas for somebody.
If to your point, when he first came out, he actually said they got him to the belt right away almost. He pretty much got to the belt right away. So it was like the crowd was nuts. I won the belt. I lost the belt. Nothing. I'm on Dark. Like, you know what I'm saying? So to your point, it would be different if he did like every other week he was on TV and then he did a Dark and this and that, whatever. But the fact that he was nonstop on TV and then went to Dark, and that's the issue I think with Eddie Kingston with me, is that he was on TV, and then now all of a sudden all I'm seeing him is on Dark. I can't count Deeb because Deeb's everywhere. She tends to pop out of it, but she's on a lot. She's one of the other few that I think she just likes to wrestle, just to fucking wrestle.
And if that were the case with like everybody, it would be a different story.
Yes, I agree.
If everybody did both.
I agree.
Right. If it wasn't like Punk never shows up on Dark and Omega never shows up on Dark and the Young Bucks, I think, showed up on Dark once. Like the main event top stars don't show up on Dark. Some, like with the women's division, it's a little different because they don't have as much for them. So like I think Jade and Rosa and pretty much all the women. I'm not sure about Britt. I haven't watched Dark in a long time, but the women's a little different. But like the top male, and that's another story. Like, why is the women's division being treated differently? But the top male wrestlers don't show up on Dark for the most part.
Yeah.
So it makes it feel like if you're on Dark, well,
why am I doing this bullshit every single week? And then all of a sudden these people are not, when they're chanting my name out.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like they're chanting my name every single fucking match, but yet for some reason I get a 2-sentence bullshit.
And we talked about this a little bit before too. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I think, the obsession with stats, having to give somebody a certain number of wins and losses, they're like, well, Eddie Kingston needs more wins because he's been losing on TV, and we don't have anybody who's a TV regular that we want to have lose to Eddie. So we're going to put him on Dark so we can get some wins, so we can see the number on the left side of the win-loss column.
Really good point. Yeah.
Be a little bit higher so we can give him some enhancement talent to get wins over.
They probably do that a lot too.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, actually, that's a really good point, because we had this discussion where like some of them come out and you're like, where the fuck is these wins? So yeah, I think there's rumors that the Ring of Honor should be coming in next year. They should be having one more pay-per-view with Ring of Honor, and then they should have a TV deal. And I assume that's why they have Jericho with the belt, and they're going to carry on maybe to help him get a better TV deal because he's a more known. So I agree with that. I didn't agree.
I think once they get Ring of Honor, it'll make a big difference.
Huge difference. Huge. I think it's going to be a huge difference. They need to make it at least a 2-hour show. They could gladly give like Wardlow and Joe and just push all these people into. But but because I know Joe is actually a Ring of Honor. He's a champ, isn't he? The Ring of Honor champ?
No. The Ring of Honor champ is Jericho.
Oh, Jericho. I'm sorry. But what title does Joe have?
He's got the extra crispy belt. The supersized extra crispy belt.
But is that from Ring of Honor though?
No, yeah, it's the TV title. He's got the Ring of Honor TV title.
Okay. That's so I knew it had something to do with Ring of Honor. Yeah. But yeah, once that would help. I know we said it multiple times on another podcast that having an extra hour on Rampage would help. But I believe that now's the time that when these contracts are coming up, they should really, really think hard of, should we let this one go? Should we not? Because WWE is going to do the same shit. They're constantly doing the same things of always debuting now all these people now that Triple H is out. So they're going to have the same thing where are these people all going to go? Yes, granted they have NXT now too, but he doesn't treat NXT the same way. He treats it almost like a Dark. Right. I don't know if you know that. Like he doesn't treat NXT. He's focusing on Raw and SmackDown, and I don't think that AEW needs a 3-hour show because 3 hours is way too much. But they do need 2-hour shows. And I'm curious to see when Ring of Honor will be, because that'll be 3 shows plus the Dark Elevation. That's 5 shows. Who the fuck is watching all this?
I stopped watching the Dark shows a couple of months ago. I was trying to watch everything, but I mean, part of it was also that like AEW was less and less satisfying to me in general. So like, why am I going to invest another? Sometimes 2-3 hours. I mean, the good thing about Dark is that it could be however long it wants. Yeah, so you don't have to force things into this framework. And I would fast forward a lot.
Yeah, I'm only started watching it because that's the only place I see Eddie. I mean, so other than that, that's what I fast forward a lot. And when you got to be honest with you, people probably doing that anyway. They probably fast forward, and so that's got to be shitty too. It's like, look at our podcast. We'll put out a 20-minute podcast, and the fucking average listener is 2 minutes. So you're thinking, what are they doing with a 48 minutes of a Dark when you only like one person?
Yeah.
So
these people, with our podcast, they're like, they turn it on. They're like, what the fuck is he talking about? Black bean dip. Next.
I know. They get to the intro and they said, you know what? Oh, we're done.
Yeah, we're done. But like the thing with Ring of Honor, I mean, it'll feel more legitimate than Dark if they're going to use it in a similar way where like
it will.
Certain people that they don't have time for on Dynamite and Rampage, they can put into Ring of Honor. It can work still. There are belts. Okay. There are belts. Dark doesn't have its own belt. It's not like its own separate thing.
I'm also okay with them doing it where they take people from both. Like since he owns both companies, I'm okay. Like think that'd be cool. Where like, okay,
Right.
if something looks stale, let's grab these people. We'll put them on Ring of Honor to challenge these people. But as long as there's an extra fucking show, like just to get people airtime.
Yeah, and they did that a little bit back in the day with NXT and WWE. Not a whole lot, very infrequently, but it was like, if I remember correctly, when Kevin Owens first debuted on WWE, he still had the NXT championship.
Yep, and he beat
Cena. Yeah,
Yes,
and it's,
Cena, like,
we're talking about years later. I haven't watched WWE. I could count on my fingers and toes the number of minutes of WWE I've watched in the past 3 years. Not maybe a slight exaggeration, but almost none. But I remember that from, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago.
yeah.
It could work for them. And somebody like Danhausen would be great because he could have matches. It's clear that Tony doesn't know what to do with Danhausen in terms of like putting him in matches. But if he could like wrestle on Ring of Honor and then just do his little shtick on AEW where he just pops out from under the ring or curses somebody, that's perfect.
That's and that's a perfect example of still like they don't know what to do with him, but he's still seen. He still has his airtime. He's even if it's a few seconds. Yeah, but he still gets a pop. He comes out, fucking crowd goes pop. So why can't you do with somebody like, okay, so for instance, my theory is if they all there anyway on Wednesday and they're doing all this recording, if you're part of the Black Dicks, you should be
you should cut it right down to Black Dicks. Okay.
Yeah. So you should, if you're part of them, of the the Blackpool Combat,
the
clique.
Breakfast.
If you're part of them, though, anyway, if you're part of them, no matter whatever match that they're in, if something's going on, you should be there to support, either be on commentary or just be on the side. You don't have to interfere, but like if you want to get these people some airtime, then just have them show up, like just to have them. If they're there anyway. Do you know what I'm saying? So, and that's why I feel like Jade and her, what is it called? The baddies, whatever the fuck they're called.
Such not even like,
yeah, but
baddies.
Isn't it called the baddies?
It's called Jade? The baddies.
The baddies?
Baddies.
Oh, okay.
People who are bad.
Yes, that's what I just said.
I'm agreeing with you.
Yes. So
I was only emphasizing it to say how silly it sounds.
It is silly, but they're always there. They're always there. Do you know what I'm saying? So no matter what, even if they don't do shit and Jade's mainly doing all the talking or whatever, it's the same thing with the Jericho Appreciation Society. They're always there. So do that with everyone else. Eddie Kingston has ties with Moxley. He's really close friends with Moxley, and they have that whole thing even on camera. He could sit there and start helping out too. Things like,
man, Eddie and the BCC would have been great. If they just put him in there, he's perfect for it.
I don't think he will though, just because of Brian and Claudio. They're okay, but they still have the little beef.
Yeah.
So I don't think they will. So it's the same thing with Santana and Ortiz. Them two are fighting, so therefore that's why he's teamed up with Ortiz, because they have no idea what to do with Ortiz now.
Well, I mean, those three guys are always kind of together, the whole like Bronx Yonkers thing.
But he's doing nothing but tag team matches with Ortiz on Dark. That's pretty much what he's doing.
And I like Ortiz.
Yeah, I do too. I think he's fine. But yeah, so mainly it's just there's too many damn people. That is the final. Too many damn people.
Too many dicks on the dance floor.
Too many dicks on the dance floor.